Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spiritual Readiness and the Time of the Shift. Today, I want to talk to you about shamanism, ascension, and spirituality on the path of light. Given the fact that the energy of the galactic equator crossing is about truth, authenticity, and transparency, it took me a while to actually do this video because I didn't want to come off wrong. Let me get explained. I was born in Haiti. I come from a tradition of medicine people. My great-grandmother was a wise woman, and that culture is where I sprung from. Yet I am an ascension teacher, a spiritual teacher, and I teach something that is quite different than the culture that I came from. This is not to say that I'm making any disparaging remarks about the culture, a culture that I highly respect, but rather that I have made a choice to seek something else. Because every path have their own limits and they have their own restrictions. Ascension is something very specific. It has to do with the desire to merge completely with God. And that path and that desire grew in me and took over my world, and I followed it to where I'm standing at today. It means that the candidate and the initiate on the path of ascension must sacrifice their negative ego. Whatever version of yourself that you think you were, you had to let it go. And if you're going to merge with God, you have to become identified with the expanse, the vastness, and the infinitude that God is. Okay? Shamanism is not ascension. I am in truth, in the interest of disclosure, authenticity, and transparency, I must make this video, and I've been thinking about it quite a while to actually do it. And I know some of you will completely disagree with what I have to say, but I'm just asking you to hear me out. Because I am placed, I'm not disparaging any path, any tradition, but I have a perspective that involves both. I see a lot of young individuals in a light community who have done some journeying or was spent a few weeks in Amazon jungle in South America, or spend a few months with a shaman, who are calling themselves a shaman. I beg to differ with you. You're not a shaman. Not yet. In order for you to understand what true shamanism is, you have to live in that culture for at least 10 to 15 years in order for you to be trained in the nuances and in the all of the intricacies that involves the practice of shamanism. I have met many of these individuals. Some of them are good-hearted and they mean well, and they go to a class or they do a few weekends training, and they're calling themselves a shaman. And moreover, not only calling themselves a shaman, they are giving shamanistic initiation to other people. I'll be very honest with you. If I needed a shaman, knowing what I know, I would not go to you, because you don't know what you're talking about. There is, and the elephant in the room is there is a sense of appropriation of indigenous culture, tradition, songs, and ceremony by people who have no understanding of the context of what the culture is about and what the ritual is about. Spending a few weeks, a few weekends, a few months is not enough for you to understand the concept. It's not that a foreigner cannot comprehend it, but you have to exist in that culture for an extended period of time to understand the full concept and impact and the meaning, the true meaning that's behind the rituals and the sacred chant and ceremonies that are being done. I'll never forget an interview that I saw, and I'm going to leave the link below in the video for you to take a look at it. It's a 2007, kind of a bit dated. Carlos Castaneda, who to my mind exemplified what a true shaman is. His followers, three of the women who followed him, were interviewed by Wistancia Stone. And at some point, Wistancia is a big ascension teacher in California. She was asking them, questioning them and basically saying, asking them about ascension. And then one of them piped up and said, "We don't know what you're talking about. We as shaman are seeking energy to accomplish a purpose that our clan and lineage has established. We don't know what you're talking, we don't know what that ascension is." And this is somebody that's being true. And again, in the interest of all of us being authentic and being truthful, I'm finding it, particularly in the light community, that there is a lot of people who are finessing shamanism and equating it to ascension. It's not the same thing. Shamans are initially seeking power that may lead into knowledge. And a third stage of that is the shamans that have wisdom. And I have to tell you, I have met these shamans that have wisdom from back home. And these are people I could sit down and have conversation with for hours upon hours, because they have so much of their wisdom and their understanding of the nature and our connection and relationship to it is so incredible that I could spend hours listening to them. But to say it is ascension, it is not, because ascension is doing something else. It's a merger with God that involves an ego death. You have to let go, you have to surrender your negative ego. And it's kind of a short summary of it, because the process is quite extensive, but that's the gist of it. I want you to think about it. Whatever path you may choose, it's your desire. You can do whatever you want, but think about what you're doing. And I know a lot of you don't have the correct information. When you do a journey, like let's say ayahuasca ceremony, and you have an insight, and you think that one day or a week of integration or a month of integration is enough, Carlos Castaneda, in his first book, The Teaching of Don Juan, A Yaqui Way of Knowledge, at the end of the book, and by the way, Don Juan, his teacher, the reason why Don Juan took him to a ceremony to take medicine was because Carlos Castaneda was too Western. Most of the people in the clan did not need the ceremony to make the connection. Okay? He was too Western, and he used the ceremony and the medicine to help them achieve a certain aim. And when that aim was achieved, at the end of the book, Carlos Castaneda literally ran away from the shaman, because his Western mind was blown apart. It took him 3 years to return back to Don Juan, because he couldn't process and integrate what actually had happened to him. When I hear people doing ceremony every month, and this makes no sense to me, I don't understand this. It's something else. It becomes an addiction to getting high, as opposed to a sacred medicine that's being used to emancipate and expand your knowledge. And again, it's knowledge as opposed to wisdom. The wisdom can only come in when you have integrated. And trust me, spending one day thinking about it or a week is not an integration. So be aware, if this is your path, what you're doing. I'm for disclosure, as I said, I'm not a shaman, but I grew up in that entire environment. The final thing that I want to mention to you, for those of you who are calling yourself a shaman, who haven't had that extended period of training with any shaman, and this is coming, it's a piece of advice, and this is coming from somebody who grew up in that culture. And you speak to anyone else that grows up in that culture, they will confirm what I'm saying. And this is the secret that many people are holding it. And for disclosure, I'm going to say it. When you meet an authentic shaman, and you're calling yourself a shaman, and you've spent only a few months training, when that shaman meets you from the first time, particularly they are not from your clan or your lineage, the first thing that they're going to do, they're going to attack you. Back home, we call this sonde. They're going to attack you to see the depth of your power. They're going to try to kill you. And if you survive the attack, then they will now respect you. Read Carlos Castaneda's book, and you will see it happening to him multiple times. He wrote, I don't remember how many, more than 10 books, because he chronicled his entire life. He was an anthropologist, and he chronicled his entire life, and a study with Don Juan, his teacher. Read his book, and you will see the number of times he's been attacked. This is a path about battling and putting yourself in power against power. Is this your fight? Is this a choice that you're willing to make? That's the only reason why I'm bringing this up. Again, in the interest of disclosure, of bringing truth, authenticity, and transparency. I want you to call a spade a spade. I want you to be able to have a conversation that's honest. I'm not disparaging anyone. I'm not telling you what path you should follow. As I said, I have friends that are wise shaman that I have conversation with quite often. And I have deep and profound respect for them. This is my culture. That's where I grew up, and I respect that tremendously. But I want to be honest and to talk about what is and what is not. Be clear about your intention and understand where you come from. I hope this raised your interest a little bit in the kind of conversation that I have on a regular basis. I put up a video on this channel once a week. Please like the video and subscribe below. I would appreciate your input, any question or comments that you may have. Deep love to all of you, and I will talk to you next week. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what you think about this video. Thank you so much.